the results of race 1 with a reverse grid system, and I believe it's the top 6 that will be reversed for the grid, but I will double check and confirm that ahead of race number 1 for you. Off we go then, onto the starting grid. Off the South Paddock pit lane entrance and exit they will go, because the F4 Southeast Asia competitors are based in the South Paddock as opposed to the main Grand Prix starting grid. That is where the Malaysian Touring Car Championship and Lamborghini Super Trofeo Asia cars are based this week. So the F4 cars are based in their own pit lane in the South Paddock. So out onto the circuit, the Black Arts trio, Rishon Rajiv, Inigo Anton and Ben Yuing are the first ones to head out on track with their teammates Joshua Berry of Singapore and Imran Putera of Malaysia. So the Black Arts team goes straight out onto the course. That is the squad, of course, that is masterminded by the ex-Formula One driver Alex Yoong, who is here this weekend. Out onto the circuit as well goes the Pinnacle driver Karine Carr. So she is getting herself up to speed for the first time. Here is your first look in F4 trim of the Singaporean, Karine Carr. But it's not her first time in an F4 car. It's certainly her first time in one built by Tartus, but she's just been racing out in the Indian F4 Championship as well, which uses the Megale car. So she does have experience behind the wheel of an F4 car and is already a point scorer, so definitely a good opportunity for her to continue her journey up the single-seater ladder. Never easy these days, and there seems to be a bit of an impetus for any woman to have a go at the F1 Academy rather than anything else. But there are racers out there who want to go up the route through to F4, to Formula Regional, to Formula 3, to Formula 2, and then to Formula 1, and I have a feeling that Karine Carr is one of those drivers, so we'll have to see if the tenacity and the ability is there to continue making her elevation. There is Niccolo Maccagnani, the Italian driver, who has actually been testing F4 cars since 2022, would you believe? So he certainly knows his way around these machines now in testing, but in racing is very different. So this could be interesting to see what he can get out of the car heading out onto the circuit for the first time. And now the Evans GP boys have headed out on circuit as well. Kyoho Lee of Korea, Alex Sawyer of Vietnam, Seth Gilmore of Australia, and Thomas Yu Lee, the American driver, who has his own unique brand of livery on the car. There is the 44, that is Wadapong Yamchan, who is in the Star Performance team, the Thai racer. Unfortunately, his teammate, Yapton Asdathorn, is not racing this weekend, having had some fantastic performances on home soil at Buriram and in the Bang Seng Grand Prix weekend. Sadly, no chance for him to race this weekend at Sepang, as he has other commitments. So hopefully he'll be back in time again for the season finale in 2 weeks' time on this very circuit. But obviously, when you are working up the grade of motor racing, there's a lot of things that you have to keep an eye on in your motor racing journey, including your education, including your fitness and health and all sorts of other things. And of course, budget is a very important part of making sure that motor racing at this level happens as well. It's not just a case of turn up, get in the car and drive. It all costs a lot of money to go racing at this level. So the driver's getting himself up to speed. Just trying to warm up the tyres and brakes to the optimum temperature, which today is going to be fairly straightforward because it's completely different weather conditions to what we had at the opening weekend, where it was still hot but relatively moist around the course. There was a very high degree of humidity. We have had rain this week. We had rather a lot of rain yesterday as well, which affected some of the practice sessions. But for this weekend, we are told by the Met Office at least that it's expected to be bone dry throughout the day, both today and tomorrow. So we should get a fully dry weekend, although this is Malaysia and the weather can change incredibly quickly. So we'll have to see how it all plays out. It's going to be a very interesting one for all of the contenders as the battles will rage out on the course. And we should get to see 3 very intense races from the F4 Southeast Asia Championship, particularly as we have a few more drivers competing this weekend. It should make things a little bit more open season, and everybody is getting themselves geared up and ready. Pretty much most of the core race countries around the Southeast Asian Peninsula have a driver to cheer for this weekend. There are a couple of nations, obviously, that are omitted, but certainly amongst the core drivers, we have at least one from most of the nations. We've got a Thai, we have the Vietnamese talents of Ben Yuing and Alex Sawyer, the Australian Seth Gilmore, the Korean Kyo Hoo Lee, the Malaysian Imran Putera on home soil, the Filipino Inigo Anton, we have the Chinese driver Wang Shengwei, and we have the Singaporean Karin Kaur, who is currently fastest, I should point out at the moment, until Nicolo Maccagnani shows up and puts in a 2:36.094. And don't forget, these are just banker laps at the moment, as they still try and get themselves up to speed. We also have the Indian talent of Rishon Rajiv. We might have had the Sri Lankan talent of Yavan David had he not been a couple of laps up the ladder already. He is, of course, going to be competing in FIA Formula 3 next season. So anybody watching in Colombo, I'm sure you're going to get very excited about that prospect in 2026. So the drivers getting themselves dialed in. That is the Malaysian driver Imran Putera, making his way up into F4 for the first time. Got his first taste of the car on Tuesday with the Black Arts Racing team. Great to see him making his debut in cars, having had a fairly reasonably good karting career, raced against many of the top core drivers in Asia, including the likes of Zachary David, the Bora brothers, Nikhil and Akshay, and of course as well, Yavan David, who we mentioned a short while ago. So this man knows how to go against core talent. This has been his chance to step up. He's not had the easiest transition to get into cars. COVID really affected him in terms of the logistics of budget. So it's great to see him get his chance to continue to progress. And it'll be fascinating to see what the Malaysian can do in his first flying lap. Speaking of flying laps, Karin Kaur has just done a 2:22.089 to really get ourselves closer to the pace. On a long circuit like this one, we'll see some really good performances, I'm sure, from our contenders. There is the leading driver at the moment, the very talented Singaporean, Karin Kaur. She has a great potential in this team and in this car. So she is currently the fastest driver out on the circuit. Still one of the many contenders and the many athletes in the world of motorsport who is trying to change the dynamic that we speak about in motor racing as referring to women who race cars as female racing drivers. Stop using that term, by the way. They are racing drivers. End of discussion. So Karin Kaur pushing herself to the limit, trying to get herself to the pole position here. 2:22.089 to start things off. Kyo Hoo Lee has gone second quickest for the moment. We really need to see what the purple sector times are going to be like when Alex Sawyer and Seth Gilmore rock up. But Kyo Hoo Lee is an unknown factor for Alex Sawyer. He has obviously been doing great work in the F4 Spanish Championship this year, running in the top 10 and scoring points in a very competitive field. So that could be a bit of a hiccup if Alex Sawyer wants to become champion this weekend. Karin Kaur, though, is already getting herself up to speed. Purple sector 1, purple sector 2, purple sector 3, until Rishon Rajiv pops up on the timing screens and gets a 39.243 out of the session so far. So Karin Kaur through that final hairpin, just trying to tidy things up on the exit. A nice run and a nice charge to the line. So let's see what Karin Kaur's lap time is going to be as she crosses the line in front of me. 2:15.015. So we're getting closer to the pace all the time. So your timing screen will update very shortly indeed, but Karin Kaur's time is at 2:15.0. It's certainly come up on my screen. Inigo Anton now steps up into second position on a 2:24.1. So again, he's still starting to get up to speed. But Karin Kaur is obviously going to be setting the pace a little earlier than most, as she has the time to find some decent pace. Meanwhile, a 28.3 in the first sector for Nicolo Maccagnani, a 28.5 in sector 2. So the new Italian to single-seater racing definitely starting to showcase his ability. Today, Nicolo Maccagnani is a name that not many people know about just yet, but he will be part of the Ferrari Academy next year, as I mentioned before. And he doesn't have the same conventional route through the world of motorsport as many others. You get some drivers that spend the entirety of their formative years jumping from karting championship to karting championship, just racing every week and publicising about it all the time. Nicolo Maccagnani's been under the radar these last couple of seasons, but he's spent the last 4 years practically behind the wheel of an F4 car, so he knows what he's doing in terms of what the car can do, how it behaves, and he's learnt about it from a very young age indeed. So we'll keep an eye on his pace, but it's certainly looking very positive. As Kyo Hoo Lee pops up with a 2:18.0, Seth Gilmore on a 2:19.9. What about Maccagnani as he comes through and completes his first banker lap? There's Joshua Berry, the number 7 in his Black Arts Racing car, as Wonapong Yamchan has gone 6th position for star performance. Nicolo Macchignani appears to be getting ready to complete the lap. He comes across the line in front of me and he goes second quickest, 1.4 seconds slower than Karim Carr, but we're not at pole position pace just yet. So the Italian is still building up to it, as of course are the rest of the competitors. Alex Sawyer's done a 2:17.6 compared to Kyoho Lee on a 2:18.0 and Thomas Yu Lee on a 2:19.4. But I was talking with the Black Arts boys yesterday and they said we've never been closer to the pace of the Evans GP guys. We've done so much hard work over the last few weeks and we are ready to take the battle to them big style now. They've won every race so far this year, but we have never been closer to the outright pace of the Evans GP cars. And Ben Ying, interestingly enough, actually was quickest in one of the practice sessions, which is phenomenal when you consider that even compared to his own teammates, he has barely any experience behind the wheel of a car at all. He made his debut in motorsport of any kind back in December in rental cars. So 9 months later, here he is in a single-seater. In fact, he made his car racing debut at round 1 back in March. So he'd only been driving any form of in May. So he'd only been driving any form of motorsport since December. So it's incredible to see what he's done in such a short space of time. Now we're breaking into the 2-minute 10s. Inigo Anton does a 2:10.3, Rishan Rajiv a 2:10.9, and Ben Ying a 2:11.2. But fastest of all in the first sector is Seth Gilmore. Fastest of all in the second sector now is Nicolo Macchignani. And this man, Alex Sawyer, has been reasonable across the way. Personal bests in all 3 sectors. But is it going to be enough to beat Inigo Anton to pole position? Not yet. 2:10.34. 11 thousandths of a second slower. As up into P4 goes Kyoho Lee. 9/10 of a second away. So it looks as though the Black Arts boys were right. They really have gained a massive amount of time compared to the Evans GP cars. Turn 8 for car number 12. Track limits for Alex Sawyer, I'm told. So that lap time may well be deleted. 25, Rishan Rajiv, the Indian driver who's been on the podium in both Indian Racing League and F4 India over the years. Serial race winner in the Indian Competitive Championships. But here in F4 Southeast Asia, he's got a chance to make progress. Inigo Anton, the man we're looking at. Purple sectors previously. Nicolo Macchignani goes top now, 2:10.230. Not bad for a rookie. Straight up there to pole position, the first race of the year for Pinnacle Motorsport. If he can hang on to that, that's an amazing debut for Nicolo Macchignani, who's driven the F4 car for 4 years now, but has not raced it yet. So this will be interesting to see what he can do with it. Over the line goes Karim Carr, 2:13.0 for her. Inigo Anton, 2:10.332. No improvement on that last lap. We're looking for personal bests in green sectors, and we are getting a lot of green sectors, but not a lot of purple sectors at the moment. Nicolo Macchignani bailing out of his last qualifying lap to try and either dial in for the next one, or that's as fast as he feels he can go. And with a 2:10.2, he can be very happy with that. There's the Black Arts Racing team watching on the monitors, trying to figure out where their drivers are going to be best over the next minute and a half or so. And if there is a potential pole position, there's certainly a potential front row of the grid for the team, thanks to the young Philippine star Inigo Anton, who is currently leading the rookie standings. But they've all been outpaced by Nicolo Macchignani. And indeed, Alex Sawyer's lap time has been improved by Inigo Anton, who's gone into second position. Now, Nicolo Macchignani is on a lap, but this is not going to be a pole position lap because his first and second sectors are already several seconds off pace. So he's either going to go for one more flying lap or he's going to bring it in and park it, having gone quicker than anybody on a 2:10.2. What a debut for the Italian, Nicolo Macchignani. An excellent start. That's what 4 years of testing in an F4 car can buy you, and that's a ticket to the front row of the grid. So it looks to me as though he's actually going to come into the pits now. He's not going to go for another flying lap. He's already got the most out of his tyres. I changed my mind. He has gone on. He's going to do one more lap because he's got time to cross the line, as purple in the final sector for Alex Sawyer, who's done a 2:10.34, 0.113 behind Macchignani and Inigo Anton. But for the first time this year, it looks like we're not going to have an Evans GP car on the front row of the grid. What a change around as Macchignani goes across the line to get one more flying lap in. He's got time to do it because as long as you cross the line, you are allowed to start another lap. And there's a time deleted for Imran Butera after getting an exceeding of track limits at turn 8 on his 6th flying lap. That was his last one. So that time is going to be disallowed. But the checkered flag comes out now. The first driver to cross the line is Karine Carr, 2:13.0 for her. Rishon Rajiv is only 6th quickest. He won't be particularly happy with that, the Indian driver. I think he wanted a lot more from it. As out of the final turn, we've got the Evans GP cars, I think that is coming through. Oh, sorry, no, it's the Black Arts cars. Josh Berry ahead of the 88, Butera Imran. And so Berry, 8th, Butera, 10th. And there is Alex Sawyer trying to get himself onto the front row of the grid. In fact, he's dropped to the 3rd row of the grid now, because both Seth Gilmore and Kyo Ho Lee have improved. So Seth Gilmore is trying to find something out of his final times. Personal bests for Kyo Ho Lee in Sector 2 and Sector 3, as Alex Sawyer currently finds himself in P5. Well, this is definitely the lowest he's been on the qualifying sheets all year. So adding a few more drivers to the grid and certainly giving Black Arts the time to look at all the data, figure out where they've went wrong and catch up has definitely made things more competitive this weekend. Over the line comes Alex Sawyer. What can he do for his best time? It's a no, it's not an improvement. It's still a 2:10.6 for Alex Sawyer as Kyo Ho Lee crosses the line and goes into 3rd place. He outpaces both Gilmore and Alex Sawyer. So I did think that Kyo Ho Lee was going to make things interesting for the Evans GP team this year. And the 22 over the line is Wong Shong Wei, doing a very good job there. 9th position, quicker than Imran Butera, quicker than Thomas Yuli, ahead of Karine Carr and ahead of Wadapong Yemchan. So amazingly, Nicolo Maccagnani, who's still on his lap, he doesn't need to go quicker because nobody's going to go better than him. On his debut, Nicolo Maccagnani, the Italian, is going to be pole position. Remember this name. I've got a feeling you're going to be hearing it a lot in the future. Here comes Maccagnani to finish the lap. It's not going to be an improvement, but he doesn't need one because his time is a 2:10.230, pole position on his debut in the F4 Southeast Asia Championship. Missing all of the first 3 weekends of the year, and bang, pole position from Nicolo Maccagnani. First time in the car, first time in the championship. Wow, what a result. Wow, he's definitely a name that we all know now. Nicolo Maccagnani, a driver to watch out for the future, for definite, as he has come straight in here at Sepang with amazing quantities of testing in an F4 car since 2022. But now he really has put in an amazing performance. Started behind the wheel of these cars at 12, and what an amazing start to his journey. Now everybody in the world knows what Nicolo Maccagnani can do. Testing is one thing, it's all done behind closed doors. You have no frame of reference until you actually get to the racetrack and you find the times. But Nicolo Maccagnani, pole position, ahead of Inigo Anton. What a great run from the Philippines driver. A pair of rookies then on the front row. Kyo Ho Lee in 3rd and Seth Gilmore in P4. Faster than Alex Sawyer, down in P5, the championship leader. Rishon Rajiv, 6th position, ahead of Ben Yuing and Joshua Berry. Then Wong Shong Wei in 9th place, ahead of the new Malaysian talent Imran Butera for the Black Arts Academy squad. Behind them, Thomas Yuli, and then it is the new driver, Karine Carr, and Wadapong Yamchan, the tie for star performance. So a very good start to proceedings then in Q1 here, and what an amazing turnaround. Last time we were in Malaysia, it was Evans GP all the way. They are 3rd, 4th and 5th, and the 3rd of those is Alex Sawyer. So the Vietnamese driver has an amazing lead in the championship, of course. But if this weekend is playing out the way that Q1 is going to play out, then he's not going to win the championship until September the 20th or 21st. So he's going to have to wait based on the day's times. Now, interestingly, we have got ourselves a little bit of a gap between the 2 sessions. We've set the grid for race 1. Now we're going to set the grid for race 3, not race 2, but for race 3, with the second of our 15-minute qualifying sessions. And it's definitely going to give us a really interesting start to proceedings now, because we've got a real shake-up in the championship order. The top 2 drivers on the grid are not in the championship fight. One of them hasn't even scored a point yet and has just scored his first 2 points by going pole position. Amazing from this man, Nicolo Maccagnani and the Pinnacle Racing team. What a shame they didn't do the whole season. There is young Maccagnani, a name you're going to be hearing a lot of in 2026. He joins the Ferrari Driver Academy from next season. So this is a man you're definitely going to get to hear a lot more of in the future. But what an impact. First session, pole position. Catch me if you can, boys. An amazing run from Niccolò Macagnani. And the Pinnacle Motorsport team, look at the smiles. They have every reason to be very excited now. That's their first pole position of 2025, I do believe, across any of the categories they race in. So a very good start indeed for Pinnacle. Blackhearts, though, pat on the back. They've done a great job to catch up. They've really made a massive impact and found a lot of speed and a lot of pace. Highlights from the qualifying session then, quite a few of them really. Some good performances up and down the grid. Great to see the Korean driver Kyoho Lee making an impact straight out of the blocks in third position as the fastest of the three main Evans GP drivers. Thomas Lee, of course, racing in the Masters towards the tail end of the grid in competition with Wong Shun Wei. Seth Gilmore outpacing his championship-leading teammate Alex Sawyer. Very exciting and proof that Bang Sen was not just a flash in the pan. He managed to get the victory there when Alex Sawyer hit the back of his car and careened into the barriers. He was perfectly okay. It was just the first time all year he hadn't won. So Alex Sawyer has been win it or bin it in 2025, essentially, winning 7 of the 8 races so far. But today, he's only 5th on the grid for race 1. So he's really going to have to work hard if he wants to win. And for us, that's going to give us a much better show. But this boy, wow. Niccolò Macagnani, first pole position in his first session in F4 Southeast Asia 2025. What an impact. What a way to blow into the championship and destroy the competition by a 1/10 of a second. Inigo Anton going second quickest. Not bad indeed from him either, considering he's now the lead Blackhearts driver on pace. So very good work indeed. But not bad efforts from Rishon Rajiv, Ben Ying, or Josh Berry, who have definitely all got closer to the pace now. The most improved driver, I would say, in the Blackhearts team has got to be Josh Berry. He's really picked up his pace and is on song with the rest of the team now. There were times when he was a good half second to a second behind his colleagues. Not now. His confidence has really grown in the 2-month break and he's really stepped up the game. It's nice to see him now very comparable in sector pace with his teammates. Very, very admirable that there is now a little bit more of an even Steven playing field between the Blackhearts boys. They look so much more confident in general, and so I'm really excited to see if that translates into qualifying 2 as well. So more great opportunities for the teams to go to battle. Are we going to see another different result in Q2, which of course sets the grid for race 3 tomorrow evening? The only thing that will have changed really between the sessions is the tyre compound. They will be on a fresh set of tyres. There is Inigo Anton, the man leading the rookie standings and second on the grid in race 1. Wow, what a chance for him. They've been looking hungry for their first win of the season, but isn't it the way? They finally caught up to the Evans GP pace and then they get outpaced by Pinnacle and Niccolò Macagnani. This suddenly became even more interesting than it was in the first 3 weekends. Time to get the cars out onto the circuit then, ready for their next 15-minute session. No red flags, no yellow flags, everybody keeping it nice and stable in Q1. Hoping for the same thing in Q2, of course. There is the Indian star, Rishon Rajiv. Great performance from him so far this season. Has been knocking on the door of victories ever since the first race of the year. There's just been a couple of moments where it's all kind of fell apart at the seams. That little tangle on the main straight just before the rain shower with Seth Gilmore in round 1, race 3 here at Sepang. Still in the minds of many of the competitors up and down the grid. It was a fantastic duel for position, a great battle. Things were a lot tamer on the Buriram circuit, very difficult to overtake on that particular track. And then, of course, everybody's still reeling from the excitement of racing on the streets of Bang Sen. And that event is going to grow over the years. I'm really excited for that. We've had Pau on the streets of France, sadly no longer operational. We had Macau, of course, which has been running many, many years now. And now we have another new street race to add to the Southeast Asian motorsport calendar, with the Bang Sen Grand Prix growing every year. So it's going to be really exciting to see how that grows again in 2026. A lot more single-seater drivers, I'm sure, will take on that challenge. As the grid continues to grow, I think we're getting closer and closer to 20 cars on the grid for 2026. It's not going to be long until F4 Southeast Asia explodes. We said at the start of the year, we've got 9, and that's not a bad way to go. Now we're up to 13, you wait. By the time we get to round 1 next year, we'll be breaking 20. So out we go again. Green flags fly as the drivers leave the South Paddock once again and go back onto the race circuit to begin Q2. This will set the grid for race 3, and all eyes are going to be on this boy, Niccolò Macagnani for Pinnacle. Expectation now on the Italian to do it again. What an amazing start to his motorsport career in cars. Absolutely incredible to go fastest of all on his first flying lap out onto the course. So as the revs rise and the Evans GP team head out onto the circuit, so too will Wadapong Yamchan of the Star Performance team. Sadly, only one car operational on this occasion, but everybody getting themselves ready for another exciting bout out on the course. Very keen to see what happens next with this magnificent squadron of drivers, as we have in round 4, 2025, a baker's dozen, 13 drivers out on the circuit. Out onto the circuit then goes the Australian driver Seth Gilmore for the Evans GP team. Race winner in round 3, race 1 at the Bankston Grand Prix. But he'll want to beat this man, Niccolò Macagnani, who's come straight into the championship with the Tata chassis on GT tyres and gone pole position first time out. Very impressive indeed. And now we'll get to see if it was just a very sweet lap that he hooked up, or whether he can do it a second time. As out onto the circuit comes Thomas Uli. Careful on the pit exit, you don't want to go over that white line. I think he'll get away with that, to be fair. As out onto the circuit again goes Wadapong Yamchan, the Thai driver known as Putter, been racing in the karting championships across Asia for the last few years. One of the top drivers in senior, was fighting for top 10 positions last time out in August, went back to the world of karting on his home circuit at Beira, just outside the city of Pattaya. There is the man everybody is keeping their eye on now, the Italian stallion, Niccolò Macagnani. Watch out for this boy. Now we know what he's made of. Now we know that he can get a pole position. He'll want a second one. So into the second qualifying session we go then. Remember, 2 minutes 10 is about the sort of pace that we will get for a pole position this time, as we've had that same sort of performance coming from the drivers at this phase. There is Karine Kaur, learning by doing. And that's the thing, you can try and quest for pace all day long, but different drivers learn at different speeds and different stages. But I can tell you that in terms of her raw ability, one of the beautiful insights of being a single-seater commentator is if you do karting as well, which I'm privileged enough to do, you can really see drivers at their rawest when the equipment is ridiculously similar, when everybody's got the same sort of pace. Karine Kaur is top 10 pace every time out, and that's always really exciting to observe when you consider that in the senior categories of karting in Asia, you've got fields of 30 to 40 to 50 drivers who have varying degrees of experience, drivers well into their 20s in some cases. And for Karine Kaur to be top 10 in her first season as a senior, that's exciting. But this is her very first weekend in the F4 Southeast Asia Championship. It's also her first weekend driving the Tartus F4 car. They drive a different chassis in Indian F4, so a very different style of car. You'd think that all F4 cars would drive and feel the same, but I've been told by many of the drivers that if you get into the Tartus F4 car compared to some of the other F4 cars, it feels completely different. And you have to drive these cars in a very different way to how you would do their various counterparts. But if you ask any F4 driver which car do you prefer driving, they'll pretty much all tell you the same thing. The Tartus really has so much flexibility. It's great to get up to speed. You can really work with it and find improvements, and you really can maximize your own ability. Drivers tell me, on the whole, that the Tartus is the car to be behind if you want to learn to get to Formula One. Just look at the talent that's got there in Tata's machinery over the years. You've got to look back through the Formula One grid of newbies. Isaac Hajar just scored a podium, of course, in Formula One at Zandvoort. Oliver Behrman, who's been part of the Haas operation for 2 years now, first last year as a test driver, now full-time in Formula One this year, came up through the ranks in the Tata Grand Prix cars of Formula 4 and Formula Regional. And of course, Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who was a star in F4 and a star in Formula Regional. Joshua Berry completes his first flying lap. It's a 2:12.3. He went quicker than that in Q1, so that's just getting himself on the board. Just rolling himself into position there. And there is Karin Carr's father, just on the left side of your picture, down in the Pinnacle garage, as the team is already starting to get excited about their prospects. First pole position is already in the bank. Can they get a second with their Italian driver, Niccolò Macagnani, who opens up the bid with a 2:23.5. He's going to need to find 13 seconds to get pole position again. There's Joshua Berry, the Singaporean, doing a very solid job. Australian and Korean heritage, of course, but races under a Singapore license because that's where he lives. And a fantastic young talent is Joshua Berry. Really comes into this season with not a lot of experience, but has got so much more confidence now compared to what he had at the start of the season. Don't forget, he had to withdraw from the Bangkok Grand Prix weekend due to an unforeseen circumstance. But now he really has been building upon the experiences of the first 3 weekends. He's got himself a great opportunity to progress. Wottapong Yanchan has his best time deleted for track limits. Unfortunately, he is currently on his second flying lap, and it's a fairly decent one at the moment. 29.3 for the first sector, 30.2 for the second, so good improvements being made. There is Niccolò Macagnani, still warming up tyres. Got to make sure that the tyres are to temperature and that the brakes are working perfectly. You've got to have so much confidence in those brakes into turn 1 and into turn 4 in particular, because you have big stops on that part of the course. You've also got to make sure you've got good confidence on the brakes into turn 9, because that is a very tricky hairpin, which you've got to approach at high speed, then slow down, but then you've got to get on the power mid-turn as it elevates on the exit of the radius. So you climb a crest out of the corner, so you've got to make sure you apply the power fairly quickly, whilst also turning, whilst also trying to keep the back of the car stable. It is a very tough circuit, this. Wottapong Yanchan, 2:17.9. That's comparable to what he did in Q1 as we watch the wobble of Alex Sawyer through turn 4. Look how close he is to the grass, leaving nothing to chance on his first flying lap. And he's done a 27.9 for the first sector. That is the purple sector for Q2. So let's see if there's any more in the tank for Alex Sawyer in this second sector. 28.2 for Alex Sawyer. He's angry. He wants pole position back. I don't want these new boys coming in and taking my thunder. He got outpaced there by not just Niccolò Macagnani, but also by Kyo Hoo Lee and his own teammate, Seth Gilmore, as well as Inigo Anton. So Alex Sawyer has decided, no, enough of this. I want my pole position back, thank you. And look at the commitment from Alex Sawyer, really starting to lose the back end of the car and having to save it out of turn 11, just trying to get that car dialed in. 36.9 for the third sector. It is purple, but I have a feeling that could be beaten after that little bit of a twitch, a little bit of a wobble. Oh, that could be over track limits for Alex Sawyer, as he just travels a little too far over in 14. But that shows you how much he wants it. He is putting everything he's got on the line here to try and take back this pole position, but I've got a feeling that's going to be investigated for track limits there. Just coming out of 14, just the back wheel just kicked the car over the line, so I think he might have this one taken off him. But for the moment, what is the time going to be? 2:09.0 if that's the case. My goodness, that's a full 1.2 seconds quicker than everybody else. But is it going to be deleted? It is indeed, I'm afraid. Track limits time will count that lap against Alex Sawyer, so that lap is going to be taken off him. And that means that the pole position lap now sits with Seth Gilmore, 2:10.51. So Alex Sawyer, that 14th corner, pushing it over the limit. It will, unfortunately, delete his time. So that time will get removed very quickly indeed. So it's Seth Gilmore ahead of Kyo Hoo Lee. then Joshua Berry. 27.9 for the first sector, though, for Alex Sawyer for this lap. He's got to keep it tidy now, as Nicolo Macchignani gets a 2:09.74. So he goes quicker than Seth Gilmore. And that puts him into pole position for the time being. So Nicolo Macchignani is now the fastest driver ahead of Seth Gilmore, second place. Third position for Kyoho Lee, then Joshua Berry doing a great job so far. We still need to see the big lap times come from Inigo Anton and Rishon Rajiv, and they've gone 37.0 for Anton in the third sector and 37.3 for Rishon Rajiv. Here come the Black Arts duo. So where is Inigo Anton going to go up the order? Second, not bad from Inigo Anton, 2:10.4. And what about Rajiv? Fourth place for the time being. Imran Patera, P6, quicker than Josh Berry. Very good work indeed so far. So we're just waiting for the fast times now from Alex Sawyer and Ben Ying, because they have not set fast times yet, but Karin Kaur much better in the second session. 8th position at the moment for Karin Kaur. That's quicker than Thomas Yu Lee, Wadapong Yamchan, Wang Shengwei. So very good work so far. And stepping up the order to 6th position now comes Wang Shengwei, finds a better time, 2:11.9 for Wang Shengwei, the Chinese driver. As Karin Kaur is now going even quicker in Sector 1, so hopefully she'll move up again. But here comes Alex Sawyer. Tidier lap is needed as Ben Ying goes quicker than Kyoho Lee. Very good work from the Vietnamese driver. Ben Ying is making massive strides forward, but here comes Alex Sawyer. This is the lap that matters. It's got to be tidy, it's got to be clean, it's got to be pole! 2:09.29 for Alex Sawyer. He's back where he belongs from his point of view. A 2:09.2, and that was a much tidier lap from his point of view as well. So I think this time the Vietnamese driver is going to keep it. Excellent work from Alex Sawyer. So after the disappointment of losing out on his first pole position of the weekend in Q1, he decides, no, not again. I'm going to take this back. So Nicolo Macchignani, second quickest, ahead of Kyoho Lee and Seth Gilmore. Inigo Anton, 5th position. Coming across the line, that is Wadapong Yamchan. What can he do? Well, it's 2:16.4. It's quicker than Q1, but it's still not good enough to get him out of 13th. It's across the line. That's the pinnacle of Karin Kaur. Coming into shot, that's Nicolo Macchignani going across the line at 2:19.3. So he's doing what he did last time. Gets a fast lap in, then slows down, now going for a quick lap again. So keep an eye on Nicolo Macchignani. This could be quicker. A 2:09.7 is what he has, 0.45 slower than Alex Sawyer so far. So let's see how it's going to go for Nicolo Macchignani. What can he do in the first sector? 28.26. That is comparable with the pace of Alex Sawyer. So that's right up at the sharp end for Macchignani. It's the second and third sectors that are really going to count, particularly sector 2 for Macchignani. It's got to be bulletproof quick, but also pinpoint accuracy. And you can see how hard he's working through 5 and 6 there. Macchignani really trying to stretch himself. 28.4. Now, interestingly, Kyoho Lee's gone quicker. 28.37 on this lap. So Kyoho Lee might just get a push here to knock Nicolo Macchignani off the front row of the grid. It's not going to be easy to judge, as across the line goes Ben Ying, 2:11.17, much quicker than the first session, and right up behind Rishon Rajiv on pace, and ahead of the new boy, Imran Patera. So very good work as, Nicolo Macchignani getting caught out there by Joshua Berry. Now, hopefully that hasn't slowed him down. Looking at the sector times, what has he managed to do in the second sector? 37.2, so that's cost him a 10th or so. But he's got to try and hook this up. 4th sector, trying to finish off the job. Kyoho Lee crosses the line. 2:09.8 for Kyoho Lee. Very quick time indeed there, quicker than Seth Gilmore, and only 67 thousandths of a second slower than Macchignani. Here is the Italian then, final minute of qualifying 2. Look at the work on the steering wheel from Nicolo Macchignani, just trying to get the car dialed in, punches the throttle, tries to find that little bit more, almost leaning forward in the car. Come on, over the line. It's not quicker, a 2:10.0. He really did get held up there by Josh Berry on the lap, but he's got one more time in him. We've got 30 seconds or so left as Joshua Berry does pit in after a 2:12.32. Outpaced by Karin Kaur on the last lap as well, so the Singaporean has got into P10 ahead of her countryman Joshua Berry. So a very solid start to proceedings then Competition going very well for the moment. But Alex Sawyer still hungry for a faster time. 27.9 in Sector 1, 28.5 in Sector 2. He's still pushing it as Ben Yue-Ying is setting personal bests in Sector 1 and 2 this time. There is the checkered flag. So we're getting to the tail end of the session now. Oh, and a spin. That's Thomas Yue Lee. So Thomas Yue Lee has spun it there, and that's up at turn 13. So that is going to be a yellow flag all the way, I think. And that's going to ruin any chances of anybody still on a hot lap, because that's right off the racing line there. Ugh. So everybody's going to have to bail out of their fast lap. What a shame. Thomas Yue Lee had just done a 2:13.0 as well. He was going quicker on his next lap as well, but unfortunately he just pushed it a little too hard, and that has stalled the car by the look of it. So that's it. Alex Sawyer is going to be pole position. He's got his place back again. Nicolo Maccagnani second, and Kyo Ho Lee in third. Well, that's going to make for a trio of very exciting races indeed, I have to say, as Kyo Ho Lee comes in and parks it. Quicker than both his teammates at the sharp end of the Evans GP squad in Q1. Only quicker than Gilmore and Thomas Yue Lee in Q2. Alex Sawyer back on pole position. Very good work indeed from the Vietnamese talent who leads the championship. Still keeping his chances of winning the championship tomorrow alive. The earliest he can win it is tomorrow. But based on how competitive this weekend is going to be, I would suggest that it's probably not guaranteed that Alex Sawyer is going to be champion until at least 2 weeks' time. He needs to outscore Seth Gilmore by 22 points. Although now, of course, it's not 22 anymore, it's now 20, because he's just picked up 2 points for pole position in Q2. So he's on his way, but it's not guaranteed yet. If he now outscores Seth Gilmore by 20 points over the 3 races, then he will become champion before we even get to the season finale in a fortnight's time. But based on Q1, that won't be easy. Not like normal, anyway. So Alex Sawyer had to back out of his final flying lap, as of course did everybody else. So only Wang Xiongwei and Alex Sawyer actually crossed the line. I think that's because Alex Sawyer wanted his victory lap for pole position in Q2. Excellent work. So business is resumed as normal for Alex Sawyer. Pole position ahead of the rookie Nicolo Maccagnani. Then Kyo Ho Lee and Seth Gilmore making it an all-Evans GP Row 2. Inigo Anton, 5th position ahead of his teammate Rishan Rajiv. Then Ben Yue-Ying and Imran Putera of Malaysia. Then Wang Xiongwei and Karine Kaur getting into the top 10 for the first time in her qualifying career. Joshua Berry outpacing Thomas Yue Lee, who spun at the end of qualifying. And Wollopong Yamchan going quicker than his pace in Q1. So, fascinating start to the weekend here in F4 Southeast Asia. We have 2 different men starting from pole position in Q1 and Q3. Nicolo Maccagnani, pole position in Q1. Alex Sawyer, the Vietnamese driver, back to his best in Q2. So we are in for a very exciting hat-trick of races this weekend. It's not done yet for the Vietnamese star, Alex Sawyer, that is for sure. He's definitely going to have it a lot harder than he first realised. But race 1 in particular, he's going to have to go from 5th position on the starting grid and get ahead of the likes of Nicolo Maccagnani, Kyo Ho Lee, Inigo Anton, and his teammate Seth Gilmore. A lot of work to do in race 1 then for the Vietnamese driver, but in Q2, he's back to his best and pole position by 0.45 of a second. Clearly needed to allow his porridge to kick in this morning. It finally did in time for Q2. It's certainly good work indeed for Alex Sawyer, the Vietnamese driver and the potential champion of 2025, back on song. That's the lap that got deleted. He pushed it a little too hard into 14, but got it back together again and got it done in the second fast lap. Nicolo Maccagnani very close to pace, but the rookie only second quickest in Q2 after his brilliant pole position in Q1. Watch out for Maccagnani. He's got race victor written all over him. So Alex Sawyer grabs the pole position. Only 1 this time. Normally it's 2, but on this occasion he has to settle for just 1 pole position for the weekend. But what a way to start things in the F4 Southeast Asia Championship. So we've started the weekend the way we mean to go on here at Sepang International. We've got 3 races coming up, 1 this evening and 2 tomorrow. So make sure you tune in for that. From me, Jake Sanson, and everybody here trackside at Sepang International. That was qualifying for the 4th weekend of 5 in the F4 Southeast Asia Championship. We'll be back this evening for the racing.